This week, I saw a clip of Edward Norton say this: "I'm sitting here talking about movies while an illegal army is being mounted against US citizens." That clip hit me right in the fucking jugular because I talk a lot about movies on Instagram, and I will talk more about movies on this channel in the future, I promise. So that clip of Edward Norton had me thinking, at a time like this, a time where the government is killing people on the streets, a time where families are getting torn apart from these tiny dick-having ICE agents, a time where keeping myself informed during these wild times can just be straight up exhausting. At a time like this, are movies even relevant right now? The short answer is yes, absolutely. We need movies to escape from the absurdities of the real world. So no matter how fucked up things get in the real world, movies will always be there for you. However, in this video, I wanted to bring up a few movies that are a good reflection of the times, of the current climate. And it's not just to spread fear or sharpen political awareness, which, by the way, you should always be sharpening your political awareness. Some of these movies that I will bring up can teach us to keep our heads up, to keep our hope alive, and to believe that there is some good in this world, and it's worth fighting for. Yes, I will definitely bring up the Two Towers. So here's the first one, and it's an easy one. Star Wars. Remember in A New Hope when Grand Moff Tarkin said, "Fear will keep the local systems in line. Fear of this battle station." George Lucas stated that Star Wars is about being anti-authoritarian. The good guys are the rebels that are going up against a highly organized empire. These days, here in America, they like to refer to rebels as terrorists. George Lucas looks at how the Vietnamese took on the American Empire and how the American Empire lost. It was the little guy versus the colonial and imperialistic entity known as the United States of America. If you don't believe me, just watch this interview with George Lucas and James Cameron. Andor also brushes up on everything George Lucas says. Andor depicts a lot of things, including the hardships of a rebellion against an evil empire. Americans watching Star Wars is like that meme from Euphoria where she was like, "Wait, is this fucking play about us?" Yes it is. I can make a whole video on how Star Wars is a reflection on the American Empire, but let's move on to the next movie. Robocop tells the story about a cop who gets gunned down by some bad guys, then is resurrected by a corrupt corporation. Robocop is essentially a satire set in a dystopia that explores unchecked capitalism, corporate power, gentrification, privatizing law enforcement, and a media-driven society. Lots to take in with Robocop. When Robocop regains his humanity, he explores his struggle with identity, and the movie makes this as a metaphor for the loss of a soul within a mechanized, bureaucratic society. Robocop clearly makes a satire out of media saturation with these news segments and commercials that highlights a society obsessed with violence and consumerism. Come and See is an absolutely devastating film where we follow a young boy in his Nazi-occupied town. This is an anti-war film that depicts some of the most horrific shit I've ever seen in a film. Come and See explores the psychological impact of straight-up terror. The film shows how extreme violence and fear leads to despair, numbness, and the overall loss of humanity. Look, Come and See is very brutal, but films like this need to exist because it can serve as a reminder for people who seem to have forgotten history. Cabaret is a 1972 musical drama set in 1930s Berlin. We follow a group of characters who are so focused on their own personal dilemmas that they fail to notice or choose to ignore the rise of fascism in their city. A classic case of ignorance is bliss. Common themes in Cabaret are the dangers of escapism and denial and the dangers of ignoring the decay of society. The movie explores how ignoring political change can lead to evil growing within your own community. You keep thinking that it won't happen to you until you see it beginning to happen in your own goddamn neighborhood. District 9 is a sci-fi film that moves like a mockumentary where insectoid aliens are confined to an internment camp in South Africa. Common themes in this movie are xenophobia, forced displacement, dehumanizing of refugees, corporate greed, nationalism, and government corruption. When the main protagonist begins to transform into one of the aliens, he takes note of how he is now also the target of the same systemic violence he once enforced. I really love District 9, that's a great one. District 9 takes on global issues like immigration and displacement. The film also shows how refugees and immigrants are mistreated, relocated, and stripped out of their own dignity, all in the name of safety and bureaucracy. Starship Troopers was directed by Paul Verhoeven, the same dude who directed Robocop, and it's a sci-fi film where we follow teenagers who engage in interstellar warfare with an alien species. I love Starship Troopers. It's a fun-ass movie, but it's obvious that this movie is a satire on militarism and nationalism, and it mocks fascist propaganda. Bro, just look at Neil Patrick Harris' suit in this. It looks very familiar. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is one of my all-time favorite films. Seriously, it's in my top 10, maybe even top 5. I'm always down to see Indy punch the ever-living shit out of Nazis, but The Last Crusade also has some common themes. It explores temptation, sacrifice, and what truly matters beyond fortune and glory. It's faith versus knowledge. The greedy ambition for eternal youth shows how the Nazis want to corrupt the Grail's power for materialistic desire instead of an overall spiritual quest for the Grail itself. Only the penitent man will pass is a riddle that tests Indy's humility and understanding, which is a total contrast to the Nazis' arrogance. This is kind of an obvious pick, but let's have a quick look at the 1984 movie. This film explores the government's saturated use of surveillance, the destruction of truth, and the loss of individual humanity. The 1984 movie is set in a dystopian society where Big Brother enforces propaganda, complete obedience, and thought control. Alright, moving on to my last movie pick that reflects the times is definitely, of course, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Man, I would love to make a whole video on the Lord of the Rings, but that may be for another time. For now, let's have a look at common themes like good versus evil, the corrupting nature of power, and fate versus free will. Other themes that I noticed with the Lord of the Rings trilogy are addiction, courage, hope, despair, as well as nature versus industrialization. The One Ring clearly shows that anyone who bears it gets exposed to the corrupting influence as well as the dangers of lust for power. When it comes to nature versus industry, we see the destruction caused by Saruman and Sauron. This reflects a conflict between the natural world and the devastation of war and industrialization. Industrialization. I can talk today. In my opinion, Sam is the best character in these movies. To me, Sam is the definition of courage, friendship, hope, and sacrifice. Not only did my boy Sam literally put the franchise on his back, but he delivers one of the most inspirational monologues in cinema history in The Two Towers. Sam talks about how everything just seems so dark and hopeless, but in the end, it's only a passing thing, this shadow. Even darkness must pass. A new day will come, and when the sun shines, it will shine out the clearer. Frodo asks Sam, "What are we holding on to?" Sam replies with, "That there is some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for." Damn, man, whenever I see bad shit happening in the world, I like to visit this scene because it reminds me that, yeah, darkness will be lurking in this world, no doubt about that. But there will always be hope for good to overpower that darkness. In this current climate we're in right now, we don't just need our own Sam. We need to start being more like Sam. So keep your head up, keep your hope alive, and remember that in this world, there is good worth fighting for. A better world is possible, so please take care, and I'll see you next time. And watch more movies, goddammit.